Good afternoon. My name is Rob Moschetti. I'm the National Sales Manager at Campion Education. Thanks for sharing some of your valuable time to join us for our webinar this afternoon. Firstly, Campion Education acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respects to elders, past, present, and future, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island peoples today. As I mentioned, thanks for joining us. Today, our Senior e-learning specialist, Paul Syle, will walk through our platform, our MyConnect2 digital platform, a platform we're extremely proud of. Paul will provide an overview of the features of the site and also how our customers can optimise with their own community and colleagues the benefits that schools and teachers can enjoy through the MyConnect2 platform. Paul will take over shortly. If you have any queries or questions throughout, please put it in the Q&A and we'll endeavour to manage it on the fly if it's relevant to what we're doing, or if not, we'll do our best to manage it at the end of the session. So again, thanks for joining us, and I'm going to hand over to Paul Syle.
Thank you, Rob. Hi, everyone. Thanks for your time. I will jump straight into the slideshow, so I'll just share my screen. See, that's all coming through correctly. Right, so welcome today. As Rob mentioned, we're going to go through Campion's digital ecosystem, more or less. So today we'll be focusing on MyConnect2, some of the functionality throughout that, and some tips and tricks on how to use it, and just a little bit of a touch on some of the features, just to make sure you're not missing anything and you can get the actual best out of the platform, the entire environment in your teaching and learning environment. So following that, we'll jump into a MyConnect2 admin portal. So that's going to be based around supporting your staff, students, identifying products, and being able to impersonate accounts. Really good for troubleshooting and understanding what's happening with resources and students and teachers' accounts. Following that, we'll look at the digital purchase report, which is based around the reporting of students of their digital orders. We'll focus a little bit on what an unmatched order is and how to match that order and what the purpose of that system is in place. And finally, we'll go over Secure Connect, which is really based around our data import area. So a little bit more IT based, but this is where you view and you manage your student, teacher, and timetable data. And you can view your subjects and classes. It's also pretty handy for troubleshooting and making sure data is in 2026 season. So I'll jump straight into MyConnect, clicking the button, and hopefully everything comes up as it should. Fantastic. Okay. When you first log into MyConnect, you are presented with a tour guide. I'll be your tour guide today, so we will skip past this. But the tour guide can be pretty handy in class, especially, and to go through a lot of the features that we're talking about today, and just to identify how to navigate the MyConnect2 platform efficiently and effectively. I know we're all probably guilty of it. You see these tour guides, you don't click next, you just close it, and then later on you go, oh, I really wish I could get back to that tour guide so I could get another bit of a walkthrough on how to use a platform. Also handy in class if you to ask students to reactivate that. So jumping over the left-hand side here in the navigation pane on the side, there is a profile area. Clicking on profile, hitting reset tours, and that will then reset that tour guide so that they could step through that. It's just a handy tip in class if anyone's a bit unsure or unfamiliar with the MyConnect2 platform and that looks like. Now, as we provision on a student's perspective, it's prescribed resources. So it's what either you as a school have chosen for that particular student in that year level and that subject, or it's on a purchase by a parent purchase where it's bought via the resource list or book list, and once the purchase is made, then that product is activated and added to the MyConnect account. From a teacher's perspective, it becomes more of an all-in approach. So that way you've got access to anything that we are provisioning or managing on behalf of the school regarding your digital resources. It really helps there if you're a teacher and you had to then you'll still have the same resources there to help you follow on with the class that you're picking up. Same if you've got any supporting teachers that only come in for certain roles, they also will have an account set up with all of the resources that you're currently using. So it's more of an open plan from a teaching perspective. Now, looking at the bookshelf here, it's nice and simple. It's easy to navigate by design. On the left-hand side here, there's a filter button. So this is probably more for teachers than it is for students, because students are going to have less resources on their main bookshelf. But teachers, you could have 30, 40, 50, or however many you as a school using. So keeping that in mind, you can search, filter things by your subject, or search for a particular resource as well. Now, so that's one way to filter down. What I really encourage is that you use the favorites section. So when I click favorites over here, you can see now that only the resources that I want to see or regularly want to see will appear on my bookshelf every time I log in. So you don't have to always go through and filter or find the products you need. You'll be hit, if you're just the chemistry teacher and you only need the chemistry resources, then that's what you'll see in your favorites section. Very easy to favorite a product. When from this page in the top right hand corner of a product, when you leave your mouse there long enough, there's a little love heart icon that will appear there. Clicking that will make that product a favorite. As you can see here, that's now appeared on my favorite on my page. Over the left hand side over here, we're looking at the trial section. Now I know it's only term 1 and you're probably not that keen yet to start looking at 2027 season. However, there is a trial feature built in, and that may not be just for the upcoming season, but this is a feature where you can trial a resource for up to 30 days, 3 resources at a time, to actually see what, if especially for the selection process, if you wanted to compare what you're currently using to see what else is out there. Helps you narrow it down as well and fine tune the resources you want to pick for throughout the year, or if you want some supporting material throughout the year for yourself. The other really handy and excellent feature for this is that this incorporates page proofs. So whether that's 2 or 3 chapters from an upcoming title that is possibly not yet printed by a publisher, gives you a first opportunity to get to it and actually see what's coming and make that choice if the publication is actually not printed at the time of your selection process. So very easy. Hit try now, appears straight on your bookshelf, and then it's accessible for 30 days. On the left-hand side here, there is an admin portal. Now, I've got a few more buttons here than most, but there is the My Content area. So if you have any content products you want to share to students, to faculty, it could be a mission statement for the school, could be a Word doc, an Excel spreadsheet, a link to a website, a PDF, pretty big list of things it could be. You can create that as a product, and then there's an allocate button here, and you can allocate that. You could do that to the whole school, to year levels, to teachers, and then that particular product will appear on those users' bookshelves as well. And in the license management area, or my content licenses, I don't have any active now, but this is where you would see the products that you've actually pushed out or shared with other students and teachers as well. So you can pull that off if you don't want anyone, if you no longer want to share that particular resource. Back to the bookshelf. By design, this is meant to be easy and simple to get into and get in and go. So if I click on a resource here, you're presented with a landing page. And there's my little tour guide again, which I'll just skip out of. You're presented with a landing page. Now, you're going to 1 or 2 places here. On the top right-hand side, you've got Open Book, which is fundamentally the ebook, very flat version of that product. Works really well, especially if you've got a split classroom environment where you might be have some students with textbooks and some with devices. The products are both paginated the same, so it makes it very easy to navigate to systems in your classroom as well. Or you're going down the bottom here where it says Oxford Digital Resources. By clicking on that, that's going to single sign on you into that particular publisher's resource and bookshelf, and then you can access their online interactive content as well. Whichever path you're trying to take as a teacher or as a school, we're just making it as easy as possible for you to get to that path, especially with the integrations of single sign-on and so forth, really eliminating those extra username and password challenges that we've all faced in times past. So let's open the book and we'll get in and show you what this looks like. Here's our little tour guide again. Now, so the bookshelf is going, the reader, if you like, is going to remember and store the last page that you were on, all your annotations and some of the settings that are in here. So if a student's lost their laptop or their dog ate it, whatever the excuse might be, whenever they log in next, they won't have lost any of their annotations and so forth. It's also really handy for you as teachers if you're carrying over that same product over multiple years, that the product doesn't expire and your annotations stay succinct and with that product as well. The top right hand side here, there's the settings button. Now, as I said, this is made to be pretty simple and easy, so we don't want to overcomplicate things. You've got a few settings in here about the orientation of the page and the layout of the page, but generally speaking, the most common setting that gets changed here is light mode or dark mode. Moving across, we've got our contents and bookmarks page tab. So fortunately, this is really well identified it under each chapter, so you can see that you've got chapter 2 here, down here 2.6, single click, get straight there. It's really snappy, really quick. The product, it'll paste the product, the ebook behind the scenes, so you're not going to get stuck in the classroom with everyone having to download the book at the same time and get stuck with delays there. So going in past that, we have a search feature, so that's searching keyword search, basically anything that's within this product, this book. Now, I think this book's got about 500 pages, but even typing in any simple word there, it'll search through it really quickly and identify where that word is on every single page. Now, where we've added value, if you like, to what is fundamentally a pretty flat product, being book under glass in this instance, is annotations. I might expand that, so bear with me. It'll display a little bit better on the screen. Okay, so annotations, and that's what this pane is on the right hand side here. Now, there are a number of different annotation tools. I'm gonna go over some of the key ones that are used throughout here and how to get to those as well. So when I click on this particular product, this particular annotation, you can see it's highlighted a piece of text here on the in this lilac color, and over the right hand side here in the annotation pane, it says it's taken what that text is, and underneath that I've written key concepts and homework, and then some context as to why I did this annotation. Do more research on this chapter and complete questions on page 110. Now, I want to stress the importance, and this is a little bit of a tip, if you like, for all the annotations, is that use keywords. Have something that is a description for that annotation that's easy to search for. It could be homework, could be test, could be exam, could be semester 2 exam, term 1 test, whatever that looks like, Mrs. Smith's exam that's coming up, whatever's coming up, whatever will associate this particular annotation with something. Because as the year goes on, if there's 40 or 50 annotations in there, they get harder to find and they can get lost very easy. So organization is key, and it will really enhance the feature of being able to annotate and find those annotations. So as you can see here in the top, there's a search comments area. So if I type in homework now, then all the annotations that I've made that have actually got the word homework in it in my keywords area will only appear on that right hand annotations pane. Makes it very easy to navigate. Now, I've marked my homework annotations in purple and perhaps my study ones in red. Now, if you have super organized students and teachers, you can also color coordinate them in that manner, because we can filter it on the right hand side here, pick a color, and let's say you were just looking for everything red because that was based around studying, click that button, and now all your annotations that are red will come up there. So it really, we want to make sure that you get the full value out of annotations and they don't just get lost like you were writing in a textbook and you never saw them again until you went back to that page. So yes, so moving back to the types of annotations. So that's the highlight area, and some of these are pretty common throughout, and common in the sense that they're practical in the way you might use them throughout the product. Next is underline. Now, to adjust the color of any of your annotations, there is a style button here, and this is a common tool throughout. So that's what type of annotation. Now, similar here, I've grabbed a piece of text. It's put the underline. I've chosen the underline tool. On the right hand side here, it's taken the text from the page, but that doesn't mean a lot without context. So I've added my keywords underneath, and then here's a little bit of the information that, or the context to why I made that annotation itself. Pretty common theme throughout making annotations, as you'll see. Next, we've got freehand or a shapes area. Now, without some context, this would just be a big rectangle over the top of a heading. So on the page. So again, I've written some keywords here, and then the context or the note that supports this annotation and why there's a big rectangle at the top of the page. Moving forward, we've got freehand drawing on the page. So I've written study this chapter on the left-hand side there, albeit with the mouse, but you can still get the gist of what that says on the right-hand side, because the device itself is also, it will support pen input as well. So they can annotate with a touch or pen device. But same deal on the right-hand side here, because this isn't bound to any text and we're freehand drawing, adding context is even more important as to what that annotation is even for. So this is kind of a note for a note. I've written a note on the page, but then I can go into more detail as to what that is. So same deal here. I've written some keywords so it's easy to search for, and then the context as to why I've made that annotation. Moving down, now this is freehand highlighting, and similar to a drawing on the page, this doesn't mean much other than a big oddly shaped circle around a heading with an arrow pointed towards it. So keywords here and some context as to what the purpose of that annotation is. And moving down, this is what is called a rich text note. Now this is where you can embed something, so make that annotation a bit more than just being flat product, where you can, in this case, I've added a YouTube video clip, so that could be a link to that. Click on that and that'll open up in a web page, in a new page, but that could be a link to a website. You know, if you've got, if you're a teacher perhaps, and you've got some extra value there where you are on a particular page or chapter, and you want to link out to another website for extra supporting material, then you can easily do that and add that here. The other part with a rich text note is there is a share icon in that annotation. Hopefully you can see that on the right hand side here next to edit. When you click that button, you can choose how this annotation is shared. So private, as you can see on the right-hand side, inside every annotation box, it says ME, because it was what I had written. But if this was shared to me, it'd say who had shared it, and that's by using this. Now, only teachers can share annotations and notes. It would be very difficult to moderate that if students could do that as well. So we kept that just to a teacher-only feature. But still using that example that I said before, you've got a humanities teacher in this case that's got some extra value on chapter 2.11, and it's a link to another website or it's a PDF. They could put that in there, choose teachers, select the teachers, and push it out to the teachers that use this resource, and that will appear in their annotations pane as well. So then they can get some extra value that's kind of wrapped around the product itself. Now, accessing the toolbars or the tools is very easy as well. So if I was highlighting any text, if I grab anywhere on the screen, but if I highlight any piece of text like so, I am presented with a toolbar. This is a text-based toolbar. So you've got limited annotation types there where you can, where you're highlighting, underline, squiggly underline, or striking through particular pieces of text because it's bound to the text. If I right-click anywhere on the screen, you're presented with a much larger toolbar with more options because this is more of a freehand. Everything there, every type of option is freehand where you're drawing on top of the product, on top of the book. This is also where you can add notes and, of course, adding the rich text note to it as well. So again, pretty easy to navigate and or choose what it is that we're trying to do there and adding notes accordingly. If I highlight a piece of text here, let's grab the whole thing. What we also built in was the immersive reader. So to support students with any learning challenges or English as a second language, anywhere throughout the entire product, you can highlight as much text as you like. It'll open up the toolbar, and when we click immersive reader, this is going to open up the immersive reader. And let me just make sure it's on. And then this is where you can customize the way that the text is displayed, but also if it's read aloud and language and grammar settings as well. So clicking on play.
Australian continent is dry.
Probably definitely at summertime. It gives you a very good indication of being able to read that aloud. Now on the top here, you've got text preferences, and that's where we can customize the text a little bit, whether that be the size, the font, or any particular to support any students with any learning or reading challenges, that is. There are grammar options as well, but as I mentioned before, one handy thing is actually line focus, really popular in being able to focus down on a particular line, and it'll move through that rather than having all text on the screen at the same time. But also if we choose another language, so this kind of translates what there is on the screen. For example, let's go with French. Now, once as it's doing it by word, when I go back to the screen and click somewhere, it's going to have the English version.
Receive.
And then in French.
Reçoive.
Oh, I could definitely not have done that. So I'm glad the tool can actually articulate it in French as well. And there's often some pictorial descriptions of what some of the words mean. Now, if you want a broader language translation, then by clicking Document, this will now grab all of that text and put it in French.
Le continent australien est sec.
Again, does a lot better job than I would have done. My French teacher would have been embarrassed at seeing my attempt at that. So following that, and of course you can switch between original and French in this case. So out of the immersive reader, going back to the main screen here, main reader, another really handy part is where you can deep link, and that deep links to an actual page in the book. So in this case, we're on page 62. I forgot to mention at the top here, there is ways of navigating as well, where you can enter in a page number and it will jump straight to it. That's alternative, obviously, to the contents and bookmarks area. But if this is a page we want to get to, and I'm sure you as teachers all don't teach from page 1 to 500 or whatever's in this particular book, you might jump around from chapter to chapter. And however you use your lesson plan or teaching plan and how you communicate to students, hopefully this will make it a little bit easier for your students to navigate as you work through the year, through the different chapters in the book itself. At the top here, there is a share icon. So clicking on that will give you a link. And as you can see, this is page 364. Taking that link, putting that in your learning management system, embedding it in there will embed this actual page 364 in the product itself, in your learning management system, rather than just be a link. But otherwise, if it's in an email, if it's in OneNote, if it's in Teams, sharing this link, when the student clicks on it, as long as that book's on their bookshelf, when they click on it, that's going to save the clicks, if you like, and jump through a lot of the process and go straight to page 364. So the students don't have to navigate, jump through, find through chapters. It's just a very quick way to navigate and get straight onto that particular page. Moving forward, so they're most of the little tips and tricks and best ways to use the MyConnect platform. I'll jump back to the bookshelf here as an overview. So as I said, students are going to be more of a prescribed approach. So what either they've purchased via a book list, or what you as a school have prescribed for them at a class level, subject level, or year level, the resources will appear on the bookshelf accordingly. Now, to support this from an admin perspective, next I'll jump into the MyConnect2 admin portal. Now, I can't demonstrate that live just because of private data, so I'll do it via, let me get it up on the screen, via my slideshow, which will more or less demonstrate exactly what you'll see anyway. So once you get to the admin area, I should have shown you how to get there. On the admin portal side, on the left, on your MyConnect bookshelf, on the left-hand side, there's an admin portal button. Clicking that will then open up some config here, and you can then go to your school admin button, hopefully that you can see on this screen here. And then that will pop up this page. So this is ABC School, and when you first log in here or open up the admin portal here, this will give you an overview of all your students, teachers throughout the school that are connected to MyConnect in some way. Now, the system does synchronize behind the scenes with data received from the school, so it is very accurate because it's whatever the school is giving us. No students or teachers are provisioned or set up or have accounts created with any private or custom entered email addresses, if you like, eliminating that Gmail, Hotmails, and everything else mails challenges that we had with different incorrect email addresses. So it's all school supplied stuff. This gives you a view of, in this case, I've filtered to students in year 7. It's got a list of the students there. The status column is important because it tells you whether that account is active. So if you have a student that comes to you and says, oh, look, I had access and now I don't anymore, if they appear here as deactivated, then we need to have a look at what's going on with the data sync coming from the school. Perhaps that student's dropped off for some reason. But again, this is just another way to identify where a challenge might be if that example was the case. Last seen column, pretty self-explanatory. The last time they logged in, so you can make sure and see who's using what and whether they are. Suspended's not really a common feature anymore, but the impersonation, which is IMP in the right-hand side, is now. That's where you can impersonate a student or teacher's account and actually see exactly what they're seeing. So it'll navigate it exactly the same as if you've logged in as them. So good and handy way to make sure that what the student's seeing and what you're seeing are the same. If a student comes up and says, I've logged in and there are no resources there, and you impersonate and there are definitely resources there, then perhaps that might be something on that student's device and a conversation with IT to understand if something's been blocked there as well. As an example, I'll click on this account here. Quick and easy view. Now, there are fields for full name, first name, and so forth, but none of that's necessary because it all gets pulled from the data that comes from the school. That big red impersonate user button, that's the important one for you admin that might need to support some of your students and teachers. And user licenses. This is really important as well. So from here, you can actually see what has been assigned to a student or teacher's account. Simply put, you've got the product there, the start date and expiry date. Now, you will see different start dates, especially if it is a book list school, which means parent purchases via the book list, because they might have gone in once and bought 3 resources and then go in on a different date and buy 2 more resources. So the start dates are going to be different. But fundamentally, the licenses for a single year product is about 15 months to make sure it covers the entire year and with a little leeway on either side. If it's a 2-year product, something that's carried over through 2 years, like some language resources, then that's usually about a 27-month license. So same deal, gives us the length of it to extend and make sure it covers the entire both the years. Moving on, status, active and deactive. That's a status column is going to be pretty similar. Now, if something's been deactivated, most likely it is because it did expire. That's about it. There's a few other reasons, but nothing that were of any concern to schools. Moving forward is last viewed stamped. So that's just saying the last time a student, or in this case, this user, went in and actually opened that product. And then moving on is last viewed page. Pretty self-explanatory, same deal. The last page the student was on. And the last publisher link access, it identifies whether that's when we were on the MyConnect bookshelf and you clicked on a product, the landing page had the 2 options, the eBook or the publisher online resource link. So this is just identifying which one of those is being used from a student's perspective. Content is going to list all the products that are associated to the school in some form. Students, teachers, the whole lot. So you know exactly what the products are that are on all student and teachers' accounts, or all teachers' accounts, and prescribed for the student accounts. Trial licenses, more for an admin perspective, so you can see what your staff are doing if they're trialing particular resources as well. So that's most of it from the MyConnect2 admin perspective. If you are an admin at school or you're looking after this and you don't have access to this, please let us know, that your account manager know, and we can turn on that access for you as well, so you can actually get this view and this screen on your bookshelf. Moving forward, digital purchase report. Okay, so this is really focused on book list schools or parent purchase, or basically anything where purchase has to be made by a student or parent before they get access to a product. So on the right hand side here, you've got purchases. I'm going to jump into that one first so that you can filter that by the product. So if you're looking to see who's actually purchased a particular product, or by year level, or search individually for something. Let's hit search, and then you're presented with the list of, in this case, because it was a broad search, all your students, and then all the resources accompanying that. So when you have a look here, if I click on Thomas's account, Thomas, that's going to expand and identify the resources that Thomas had purchased in this instance. So it's a good way of saying, all right, well, I can see that Thomas has got his accounting and his maths resource. You've said you bought the humanities, but that doesn't appear there. So it just gives an opportunity to dive deeper and go and figure out whether perhaps Thomas's parents didn't purchase that resource or they missed it on the book list. So it's another troubleshooting guide to actually identify purchases and to make sure that people do purchase the resources that you need them to use. On the right-hand side here, far right, you can see a little red icon with a down arrow. So that is whatever you filtered that screen to, whether it be by subject or by year level, or even typed in a name and you just want to looking up a particular student. When you download that, it'll do it as an Excel spreadsheet. So then you can manipulate the data, perhaps use it as a paid or unpaid report and identify who has and hasn't purchased certain and particular resources. Moving back now, and I am going from right to left, but never mind. So the F-code report is very similar to your purchases. So an F-code is where we collect a fee. We don't assign a product necessarily for the school. And this is where you can run a report to identify who has and or has not purchased or paid for that particular fee product. Pretty handy this time of year, I'm sure, for your schools. Now, unmatched students, this is what I wanted to dive into a little deeper as well. When an order is placed via the book list, or when a parent places an order, our system will link or try to link to the data that we receive from the school to identify that particular student, so that once that order is placed, we know that Mary Smith is msmith@school.com.au, because we know the email address associated with that student, that we can match that and then provision all the resources accordingly straight into that account. It's very quick and smooth process. Now, if an order was placed and we couldn't match it because Mary had a different name was put in there, or maybe mum or dad's name, or there was some kind of error on the way that the order was placed, those orders will go unmatched, because I mentioned before, we won't provision or set up any accounts off any manually entered email address, even when it's taken at the order time. We use it for matching, or an attempt to match, and hoping that does. But that's about it, because we don't want Gmails and Hotmails and so forth, because single sign-on will be broken if setting up accounts incorrectly. So when I click search, that's going to show me any of the unmatched orders that are currently sitting at your school. I do encourage that you go in there quite regularly, especially at the start of the year, to try to narrow this down. I know our team and our automations do a fair majority of the matching for you, but sometimes there are a few curly ones that we might not have been able to identify. So clicking on one of the users here, I'll click on Luke Hodge. You'll see this is the orders that were purchased. Now, we couldn't identify Luke Hodge. We didn't know what year level he was in. We don't know the email that's associated to him, because for some reason we weren't able to match that. Now, to troubleshoot here, if you're a school, we can see that by the looks of things, Luke's bought the year 7 resources. So, and if you know that there's a Luke Hodge at year 7, then that makes it very easy for you to actually match this yourself, and then that will release the order. So it gets rid of the student, all the products out of the holding bay and straight into the student's account. So that's just by entering the email address here, selecting the year level, and then hitting submit. And then that will release that order. I do really encourage that you go in there and make sure that those unmatched orders are as low as possible. And if something still doesn't add up, or you're unable to match it, reach out to your account manager, because I'm sure they'll be able to support you through it, so we can identify that order, because otherwise that order is just sitting there and nothing actually happening with it. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the digital purchase report. I will move on next, being mindful of time, to Secure Connect. So this is more IT heavy, but this is really about the data that we've got synchronized between the school and Campion. And that's kind of the backbone on how all the provisioning works, because accurate student and teacher data, subjects and classes, is what produces all the correct email addresses and products that have to go into correct subject allocations as well. Pretty easy viewing screen that you've got here. This is just showing the latest imports and what's happening. As you can see here, I've put a red box around a 1, because this teacher import has had a change. Clicking on that will identify, and to give you a bit of a brief overview, might say something where in this instance, this test teacher at school.com.au is actually associated at another school. Doesn't mean they don't have content, just means they might have work at another school. That's not uncommon when it's a government-styled email address, and the teacher might either work at another school or fill in at another school. It's just an alert that that is the case. And if I click on teachers created, and here's that that flagged new teacher, and funnily enough, new teacher at school.com.au. Right, closing those down. Now diving a little bit deeper into students. Clicking on students is a handy way to search for something. Got a student that comes to you and says, I have nothing, I have no access, no MyConnect, nothing, don't know what's going on. You've checked the unmatched orders area, they didn't appear there. We're going to have a look in here and go, well, does this student exist? So you can search individually for a student, and then this active flag is very important, or this active column. You can see the green ticks there. If that student is marked as deactivated, that means that student is no longer coming from the school's data to Campion. So that they've dropped off for some reason, but at least it triggers an investigation to understand why that is. That's also how we manage teachers and students that leave the school. So school doesn't get billed for students that no longer attend, and teachers then accounts expire after a certain time as well, if they're no longer part of your particular school. Now, if I click on an account, so I clicked on Connor here, and this is really important for more of your book hire schools. So where we're provisioning every student, it's not so much parent payment, it's provisioning every student according to what the school prescribes. So the particular subjects here would all have particular resources associated to them. And as long as that's the data that comes from that student says, in this case, Connor is in B10102B, then whatever resources that are associated to biology will be in Connor's account. This is also helpful to troubleshoot if Connor came to you and said, look, I've moved to chemistry. I was in biology. I'm not doing biology anymore, but I don't have any chemistry resources. If you looked in Secure Connect and you saw here, well, it still says biology. I guess the first question is, did he change the same day? Or is something not up to date yet? Then we can actually identify from the school's perspective, from the timetable and the data that we're getting, to make sure that has been updated as well. Because the beautiful part about this system is, because of the synchronization, adds, moves or changes, and we know they all happen at this time of the year, are automated. So you don't have to notify us that Connor has moved from biology into chemistry class. As long as that data comes through and then biology comes off Connor's list, and then you'll see a chemistry one here, then those chemistry resources would be provisioned straight to that student's account. It's really quick, really snappy, and works really, really well. Moving forward, I've got teachers. So it's similar to looking at students. This is really just identifying that the teachers are active. Again, teacher had access, doesn't have it anymore. Have a search in here. If that active tick is not there and they're perhaps deactivated, then that's something to flag or identify why the data coming from the school, the teacher data in particular, doesn't have that teacher associated anymore. Subjects, this is handy as well if you want a more global view on who's in a particular class code or subject level. I can't actually demonstrate that here, but if you clicked on one of the badges here for class codes, it would open up a little dialog that says all these students associated to B07FR1 or FR2, or the whole subject level as well. Another way of seeing if you've got a student that comes to you and says, look, I'm doing French, year 7, but I don't have any French resources yet. If they're not in one of those French classes, then they won't get the resources. So it gives you an opportunity to identify whether the timetable data coming from the school is accurate and up to date as well. So that's about it from me. I think I've shot through that as hopefully fast enough and thorough enough, but I hope you do have value in today's webinar, in particular to get a good understanding around MyConnect. I want everyone to be familiar with it and comfortable, because it is made to get in and go. It's meant to make things simple, especially with single sign-on and being able to provision resources across the board for all your teachers as well. So thank you. Thanks again. I'll just stop my screen.
Some questions there, Paul.
And are there, sorry, Stephen? Rob?
So you got some questions there, Paul. One is is
Sorry,
there a
Adam.
is there a resource for students to navigate and learn how to use the product?
Yeah, there is. So the tour guide is probably going to be a good starting point to be able to navigate through and how to use the product itself. We are updating some guides at the moment with a more of a deeper dive, similar to what I talked about on how to use the product as well.
There's also a question there is how did you will the immersive reader capture text from diagrams and images or tables?
Only if it's I think it will everything out of a table, but as long as it's not an image itself. If the text is embedded as an image written in an image and it can't be highlighted, then it won't grab that text from the screen.
There's also a question about how did you get to the Secure Connect area?
That is probably a deeper dive or more a conversation that we probably have to have with the integration team or the IT team at the school. I'm happy to take that offline. To access Secure Connect, it's via our Campion's Eco platform. There is an Imports or Secure Connects button icon there. But if you're as a teacher, you won't see that unless you've been allocated or given that permission as well. Anything else on the radar, Stephen?
No, I think that's it. And
Cool,
over to
fantastic.
All right,
Thanks.
thanks, David. Thanks very much for that, Paul. That was fantastic, very helpful, and covered a lot of territory in a fairly short amount of time. So well done. One other point: if you purchase digital product from Campion, you have access to MyConnect2 free. So there's no charge for MyConnect. If you're a Bookly school, and many of the attendees today would be a Bookly school, they may know that. But also getting that message further along the school as well. So if you purchase that product through Campion, whether it be via Booklist or whether a book hire model or a school pay model, that would also be free of charge. So I hope you found the webinar useful today. If you can assist with any more information, digitalhelp@campion.com.au. So your local account manager or digitalhelp@campion.com.au. There'll be people at the end of that to certainly support any queries you may have or would like some further information. Also, just keep an eye on your inbox. Campion, we have some exciting new digital products that Campion will be sharing with schools in coming weeks. Something we're very excited about through our growth team, and some great products there that are coming your way soon. So we'll email out some information as they come to hand. But again, on behalf of Campion, very much want to thank you for sharing your valuable time with us today. I hope you were able to glean some information that was valuable. We had a lot of colleagues who registered who didn't make the call today. We'll also have a recording from today as well, and we'll share that with them. And we'll also with our team as well. So again, thanks very much. Have a good evening and look forward to talking to you soon.